Well, really, I didn't contact the Muslim community until after I discovered Islam. That's a strange story.
Yeah.
You know, how do you discover Islam without meeting Muslims? Well, I discovered Islam by reading the Quran, straight to the Quran. And from that, I discovered the essence, what I believe to be the essence of the solutions which God has given us through this revelation, Quran.
Well, yes, when I first was introduced to the subject of Islam, I was not interested in a new religion. In fact, I was very happy with what I had, and I was trying to convert a Muslim to become a Christian.
Because you were a pastor.
Well, I was a preacher. There's a difference.
Okay, a preacher.
Pastor is much, I think, more dignified than me. I was just a person out preaching the word, you know.
And a musician.
Very much a musician.
And this is your life.
Putting it all together, trying to call people to the Lord, etc.
A changing point in my life where I said, man, everybody around me is dying. What am I doing? When it was time for Salat, I remember they said, just do what we do, follow us. And I remember when I put my head down to the floor, this was the first time I put my head down to the floor. And I remember saying, subhanallah, just humbling myself to the floor, my head to the ground. I felt some type of peace, you know what I mean? Because I never done that before. So I put my head to the floor. Because in America, all the gangsters in the inner city, they becoming Muslims. All the gangsters in America in the inner city, they all searching for something. And when they keep searching, they run to Islam. This is what happens to the brothers in America, man. They get Islam and they hold firm to it, man. Where we try to learn the Arabic language. We dying to learn the Arabic language. I've never been more happy in my life than when I became Muslim. Like I said, I had houses, man. I had 3 houses at one time I couldn't even live in. I had brand new cars. Every time a car come out, I go get it. None of that stuff made me happy. You run into that lifestyle, the depression. I used to be so paranoid I had to leave the house every day with a gun. I used to have to buy dogs 200 or 300 pounds because I'm scared. I had to have a dog sleeping outside and a dog sleeping and a dog sleeping in the house. And some nights I used to go to sleep with the gun under the pillow. Is this normal? But when you become Muslim, Allah give you peace.
But my neighbor, she said, have you read the Quran? So rather than be too facetious and too arrogant, I said, okay, I know what I'll do. I'll read it just to shut her up. Right? No intention of becoming Muslim. I'll read it so that intellectually I can have a discussion with her. Fair, right? Fair. So I started reading the translation of the Quran in English. It took me 6 weeks to read it from cover to cover. And I was reading it every day. I realized by the time I finished the Quran, translation, I said, this really is what Jesus preached. This really is what Moses. But I was confused. I said, where's the chapter on how to build a bomb, right? Where's the chapter on terrorizing women and children? Because if you don't know, you think Islam is all about terrorism and sexism.
Byers, a fourth-year science student, has been learning a lot lately. But his latest studies aren't limited to just physics and biology. Byers is learning about Islam, a religion he's recently embraced.
Like a brief illustrated guide to understanding Islam.
About 5 years ago, Byers couldn't have pinpointed what belief system he followed. He was raised a Christian, but Byers remembers feeling let down by his faith when bad things happened in his life.
I would always question, like, why would God do that to me, or my family, or my friends, it just didn't make sense to me. And then I got pretty angry. That was, like, the only time in my life where I was really angry about a lot of stuff.
Now Byers is feeling more settled. This past spring, he was encouraged by some friends to learn more about Islam. What he found was a belief system that, he says, was a perfect match for his logical mind. So in the summer, Byers spoke the Shahada, the testimony of faith that states Allah is the only God and Muhammad the last prophet of Islam.
Once you say that line and you mean it in your heart and you're honest with yourself, you are a Muslim.
People look at us. Yeah, they do. It's so common now that I hardly even notice it. We actually get stared at on all sides. When we're in the larger non-Muslim society, people stare at my wife or my daughter because they're wearing a hijab, and then they realize they're with that blonde white American guy. What's up with that?
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
I'm grateful because
when I look at you, I see myself 37 years ago.
I never really believed in God. I had a few friends who were Muslims, and I asked them for books so I could respect what they believed. And the more I learned, the more it was like common sense to me. So I just decided to convert to Islam, and I'm happy.
I need to get to the source, you know. So I decided to go to Medina. Alhamdulillah, this is within 1 year after I accepted Islam. And there had some scholarships showed up at that time, and Abdullah and myself, we went to Medina. Abdullah came. Now we went into Medina, and the situation in Medina was rough. This is 1974. I mean, seriously rough.
Recently, when I was blessed to make a trip or a pilgrimage, a religious pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca, where I met many people from all over the world. People were colonized. They were suffering all forms of colonization, oppression, exploitation, degradation, humiliation, discrimination, and every other kind of hate. And bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary.
People like me talk to the slaves. They didn't kill him. They sent some old house Negro along behind him to undo what he said.
I was first Muslim in my family, but today there are 25 Muslims in my family. Nobody in my family learned this, or rather accepted Islam from my hands. But in my absence, they were reading books and they were learning Islam. And so what I'll tell you is that my brother David, he was the second person to accept Islam in my family. The next person in my family who accepted Islam was my mother. The next person who accepted Islam, I think, was my sister. The next person who accepted Islam in my family was my father. He died the same year. We gave him Janazah Islamiyah. The other people in my family were impressed. My grandmother said, I want my funeral exactly the same like his. And she died a couple of years after my daddy. But before she died, she accepted Islam.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا.
نحن جند الله دوما دربنا درب الأباء.